Hey there guys, welcome back to my channel Crafty Concepts with Erin. Today we're going to be creating with this Stars and Sparklers card making workshop. I have 3 alternative card ideas to share with you, and this is a stamp set that comes with this collection. You can see it says happy birthday, you get the other squiggles, and what's cool about this is you get the coordinating die cuts. There are 2 of the balloons and then all of the different squiggle strings and a few other accessories. So you can stamp the balloons and add detail also with the overlays. So these are the other components to the kit. You get 16 card bases and envelopes. These are pre-scored, ready to go. So handy when it has a nice little score line all ready to go. And now this is a sheet of silver glitter stars. So you can see there's a couple different sizes and you could pop those out and they're perfect for embellishing your cards. There's also 2 sheets of the pattern paper. One side's that red and white stripe and the other side is this fun pattern that is very patriotic but perfect for birthdays also. And then there's a Bluebird cardstock as well as several sheets of white daisy. Now they do give you the workshop instructions if you want to follow along, and you can make, like I said, 16 cards. There's 4 different designs and they're super fun designs, all birthday themed. So if you want to follow along with those, they give everything you need right there in one handy kit. I, of course, can't help myself and love to create my own designs, so I'm going to die cut a whole bunch of these balloons out of white daisy cardstock. So you can layer up 2 pieces at once, so we'll get 4 cuts or 4 balloons with each cut. So I went ahead and die cut 9 of these. I need 6 for my first card project, so I'm just peeling these apart, making sure none of those are stuck together. Along with the 6 balloons, you'll need this rectangle panel. This is the largest of the stitched rectangles. And then also a piece of this pattern paper cut to 5 1/4 by 4. We also need our card base, so we'll just get this ready and set that aside. And I'm going to start by adhering my layers together. So I thought it'd be fun to kind of angle this stitched panel kind of asymmetrically over the top of this pattern paper. Now I'm going just over the corner and then the outside edge of this one because I don't know exactly where it's going to line up. I'm lining up that upper corner there and then wanting to make sure I cover everything at the bottom. So kind of just eyeballing it here. I think that's going to look good. We'll flip it over and give it a good press here. And now I can't cut a straight line to save my life with scissors, so I'm bringing in my little Fiskars photo trimmer and lining up that base layer of pattern paper, and then I'm going to cut off any of this white stitched rectangle that's hanging over the edges here. Oops, my little demo card sliding into the screen there. So our finished card measures 5 1/4 by 4. So now we're ready to do our stamping. We have Scarlet, Bluebird, and Toffee ink, which are the featured colors in this paper collection. We're taking this solid balloon stamp on the right, and I've already got that mounted on my block. So we'll also be using this Happy Birthday to You balloon string. Now, whenever you're stamping, I recommend you put down a piece of foam underneath your paper just to cushion it, and you'll get a more crisp image that way. Season it on your arm or rub an eraser over it. And then I'm using this Bluebird ink and I'm going to stamp several balloons. I'm actually going to do all of them for all 3 of my cards just because I have it out. My stamp's inky, so I might as well get them all stamped right now with this particular color. So we're just going around lining those die cuts up. They're lining up super easy. Now I'm done with this particular stamp, so I'll go ahead and use my stamp chamois to wipe off any of the excess ink. And then I'm going to swap this out for the little polka dots here. And we're just going to do one of these in the blue polka dots, just like so. Super cute. Next, I'm going to switch to the Toffee ink, and I just need a couple of these. There are these little stripes here. And I'm going to stamp one of the stripes. So I'll show you, you can either stamp these over like a solid background, or I'm just going to stamp them directly onto the die cut, and I think that looks good too. So we'll get that pressed down. And then this one, I want to keep it solid white, but I'm going to do a little inking around the edge of this balloon with Toffee. I was just thinking these would be super cute if you ran the balloons themselves through an embossing folder and gave them some texture. I think that would be really fun. I'll have to try that next. So last but not least, we want to add some of that pretty red color. So I have my Scarlet, and I'm going to switch back to the solid stamp. So we'll get those swapped out. And then I'll get this good and inky and line up the Scarlet color. I really think this is a pretty color. It's a little bit toned down if you're familiar with the cranberry. It's just kind of a deeper shade of red with maybe a little bit more blues to it. It's really pretty. So I have 2 of the solid reds, and that completes my stamping. We'll do a little embossing later, but for this card, we're just doing some basic stamping. So this is one of the zip strips off the pattern paper, and I'm going to put it on the bottom of the card. But first, I'm going to line up my balloons, and again, we're going to use 6. So I have 2 of the blue, 1 red, the toffee, and then the little blue polka dots here. Usually I like to do things in odd numbers, so I'm breaking my own rule, and I have 6 balloons, but when I was building up my balloon bouquet, I felt like this just looked balanced, so we're going to go with 6. I'm dry fitting my little balloons into place so that I can make sure to have enough room to stamp my sentiment. It's going to be that happy birthday to you balloon string hanging down from the center, which will be from the red balloon. So I want to make sure there's enough room to do that before I adhere everything down. So I think I'm going to scoot these up just a bit because I want to put that zip strip on the bottom. So we need to accommodate for that as well. I decided to use black ink for the sentiment, so we'll get this good and inky, and then I can line this up coming right from the red balloon. I'm going to squeeze that up just a little bit so I don't stamp on the bottom of the balloon by mistake. Give it a good press, and perfect. I love this scripty writing. I think that's so pretty. So now I have my balloon bouquet all perfect. And to keep it that way, I'm going to use this Glad Press and Seal. Now, I've used this piece over numerous times. I've recycled it and used it over and over again. So it's lost a little bit of its tackiness, but just press it down over your embellishment cluster, and then you can pick it up as one solid piece. Now we can go ahead and glue the zip strip to the bottom here just to add a little bit more of that toffee color and tie this all in. So we'll get this lined across the bottom, and now we can add glue directly to the back of these balloons. And I'm avoiding the red one in the middle because I'm going to pop that one up on foam. But this way you can just kind of act as it's one solid piece instead of trying to line those all up over again. So it's kind of a fun little technique, and it works really well. Get it lined back up into place, press it all down, and then just be careful when you peel up your press and seal, and then save that for next time. So I'm going to use a little foam square, put it on the back of the red balloon, and then pop that one up front and center. So now the rest of our balloons need strings. They have several different options, but there's a squiggly one and a wavy one, and I have so many balloons in my bouquet, that would be a lot of chaos going on. So I just want to use my journaling pen, and I'm drawing straight lines from the balloons in the foregrounds down to the base where my sentiment meets at the bottom here. We'll do some from the balloons in the background, and I'm just stopping short of my words. And this way I feel like it really draws attention to the happy birthday to you sentiment because it's squiggly and scripty, so it stands out against those solid lines. Now we can go ahead and get this panel adhered to our card base. I'm using a little bit of liquid glue. Go around the edge, a good squiggle in the middle, and then I can line this up so we have that nice white border around the outside edge. Now I feel like the area where all the strings meet is a little unfinished. So there's this tiny little bow. I've already gone ahead and die cut the bow shape, and I'm using my Scarlet ink to go ahead and stamp the little bow, and then I'm going to glue this down and kind of, I don't know what you want to call it, just kind of blend that area where all the strings meet. And I think that finishes it off nicely. So here is our first card with our little happy birthday to you balloon bouquet. And now for our second card, we're starting with a Bluebird background. I did go ahead and cut 2 1/4-inch stripes from that red and white paper. We also need a 2-inch strip, but first we're going to add a little embossing to our background piece. This is the Cascading Dots. It's from the core catalog. Isn't that fun? So we can go ahead and do our stamping before we glue this to that background, because now we just emboss the background so it's textured. So you definitely want to do your stamping first. I am laying my red balloon in the middle just so I know where I want my string hanging. And I'm using that same Happy Birthday to You balloon string. And I think that's going to look good. So we'll go ahead and do some heat embossing now to dress these balloons up. The featured technique in this workshop was heat embossing, so I thought, well, we should add some to our balloons also. I'm dusting those with the anti-static powder pouch, and I have both white and clear embossing powder. I'm using my Versamark clear ink, so it has no color, but it'll pick up the embossing powder. We have the little stripe balloon overlay. We'll get that good and inky, and then line this up with the red balloon. Go ahead and give it a good press. And now we can dust this with the clear embossing powder, and it's just going to stick to the lines where we stamp with the Versamark ink. So I'll go ahead and dig this out of here with my tweezers and then tap off the excess powder. It's looking pretty good. This is so tiny, you definitely want to hold it with tweezers so you don't burn your fingers. I've already got my heat gun preheated, so it's nice and hot, and you can see that melting right away. And now we're left with these shiny stripe finish on the balloons. So isn't that fun? For this one, I thought it'd be fun to add the dots, so I'm using my Versamark ink again, give it a good press, and I'll hold it with my tweezers, and instead of clear, I thought it would be fun to use the white. So we'll tap, tap, tap off the excess, and then repeat the process and get that all set with our heat gun. You can see it brightening up as it melts there on the camera, and it looks like a little polka dot balloon. Before we assemble our second card, I want to stamp the other two balloon strings. So we'll go ahead and bring that black ink and line up the red one. And I'm going to pop this one again up with the foam squares. So I'm going to get this one into place so I know where my other two balloons will be on the card before I stamp the strings. Now for this one, I am using the squiggly strings rather than drawing straight ones because there is some separation and I don't think it will look visually cluttered. So I'm just stamping these down, hanging from my two balloons. I want them staggered at different heights. So we'll use a little glue to adhere these right to the surface of the cardstock here, just like so. And now I want to use these red stripes to kind of border this white panel. So I like to use liquid glue so we can slide those into place, starting at the bottom, and I'm just kind of keeping that margin the same on the edge there. And I'm going to put that up there so I know how far apart to put my other little red and white stripe piece here. I'll get that lined up. Go ahead and move that out of the way now that we have our placement. And then this one will just kind of center right in between them so we have the little red and white panel evenly spaced on either side. I definitely have gotten a few fingerprints smudged on this card, but that's okay. Grab your adhesive removing eraser and you can just kind of wipe that right off. We're ready to adhere this to our card panel, so I'm just using some glue around the edge. And we'll go ahead and line it up with that same white border around the outside. I just think that looks so nice. Make sure everything's good and pressed down, and then it needs a little sparkle. So I grabbed my Belle loose sequins here. This is a little jewel picker I just ordered on Amazon. It's got a sticky end there, and I'm using it to pick through and find uniform sequins. I want the same size and same color, so I'm just grabbing the ones I want really quick. And I think that looks good. I like to use either mini glue dots or this white glue. You can use it as well. It has enough of a flex to it that it won't pop your little sequins off when it's dry. So I was looking at this stamp set and I noticed these little tassels here. So I went ahead and stamped a couple of those in the same Bluebell. I'm adding a dollop of glue below the balloon, and then I will just put this little tassel on each of the blue balloons. And I just thought that was fun and just adds a little detail. So card number 2 is done. I love that embossing on the background and then the heat embossing on the balloons, and we have a fun card. So for card number 3, we're starting with a full piece of white daisy, and then we have a little strip of our pattern paper. I'm going to pop out the 2 balloon dies, and we're going to make a shaker. So I'm lining these up here, making sure I have enough room on the edge to accommodate foam tape behind my shaker element. Now this little piece here is from the core catalog, and I use these a ton. These are the fancy border dies. You can see the scallop edge there. So I'm using this, and I want to make sure it's straight. So I thought, ooh, I'm going to bring in my Versamat, and that's going to help me make sure this is lined up from left to right. I'm making sure this white panel is square on my mat so I can count the little squares and make sure my piece is straight from left to right. So I have a little post-it removable tape, and after I get this lined up, I'm going to secure it in place with little pieces of torn tape just to make sure that doesn't shift when I'm running it through my die cutting machine. And again, remember, when you're placing your balloons, you want enough room around the sides, top, and bottom to place your adhesive foam. So when you make your shaker element, you'll see why that's important here in just a moment. I'm laying down a sheet of just regular printer paper, and that's going to keep any lines from being marked onto my card base. So that is what our finished product should look like. These are extra pieces, but you know what? I'm checking this out, and I think this is going to be a cute base on another card. If you lined it up, well, that's too narrow, but if you lined it up on a piece of pattern paper or something, we'll definitely save that for next time. And we have a couple extra balloons we can tuck into the stamp envelope for our next project. So we have this cool stitching detail on the bottom, and then our 2 balloons. And then again, we'll need that stripe piece. And this time I made a top folding note card so it stands up nicely on display. So we'll go ahead, and we want the red and white striped side facing up. And so I'm going to glue this to the lower portion of our card panel here. This red piece is 4 1/4 by 2 inches tall. So we'll get that across the bottom. And now we need to add the shaker elements to the back side. So before I do that, I'm going to do some stamping. I flipped over my Versamat here, so we have that nice foam pad, and I pulled off this Sending You Birthday Wishes stamp. I'm going to grab my Bluebird ink, and then we also need a little balloon squiggle, and we'll need the black ink for that. So we'll go ahead and get those stamped down real quick, and we'll line this first one up underneath this balloon. Give it a good press. And now this one's going to go off of my cardstock, and I don't want to get ink on my foam mat, so I just put a piece of printer paper underneath there to protect my work surface. And now we have our 2 balloons, and then we just need our sentiment. So you could do this in the red, would be fun, but I thought I'd keep with the red, white, and blue theme and go with the Bluebird ink here. So give this a good press, and then we have our birthday sentiment. So now the foam tape comes in 2 different thicknesses. So we have a wider and a skinnier version. I like to use both, just depending on my project. And we also have the square foam shaker and acetate windows for this shaker cards. Now you can see it comes with the foam if you're using an exact square, but I'm kind of doing my own thing here. So I'm just going to use my rolls of tape. I'm removing the protective coating from my little acetate window here. And I like to use the liquid glass for adhering these acetate windows. It just works really well. It's a nice strong adhesive. Just make sure you don't put it too close to the edge, because when you press down, you don't want that to squish out into your shaker window. I'm using the wide foam tape to go around the perimeter of my card here. And you can tear this, but I just don't like to do that. So I use my non-stick microtip scissors and just give it a good snip. And then I don't quite have enough room for the thicker one at the top because of where my shaker window is. So I just reached for the thinner piece. It's the same thickness, but different widths. And now if you peel off the backing, you can shape this and custom fit it to your shaker windows. So we're going right around the balloons because I don't want to fill this whole area up with sequins. That would just be wasteful of the sequins because it would sink down into areas you couldn't see it. So we're just making tiny little pockets around each of the balloon windows to house the sequins. The rest will just fill up with some foam strips just like this, and there you go. Now I have the Bluebell loose sequins, and I did my demo card with silver stars, so I'll show you that one here in just a minute, and you can see, the difference. I just thought that either one looks good, so it's just your preference. So we're just filling these up, making sure I have enough and nothing is standing up or stuck to the foam. I went ahead and peeled all the foam backing off, and I'm lining up one corner then the other, and when you do it this way it usually works out perfectly. There we go, lined up nice and straight, and we have our little shaker windows. Shaker cards are so fun. So here's the one with the silver stars. This is the tiny silver star confetti. And then I used the silver glitter stars to add to the front of the card panel. So both of them are fun, just a little bit different look. So let's bring back in the first card, and then the second one we made with the embossing, and then our shaker windows. Which one's your favorite? I'm not sure I like them all, but maybe the shaker window. Who doesn't love shakers, right? I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you're not already a subscriber, I would love to have you hit that subscribe button. Thank you so much for watching. I will catch you guys in the next video. Bye!